All right, there you go. So you should be able to hear me now. Thank you for letting me know the audio was not working, but it should be good. Damn, so many people. Thank you so much for coming. I really like this. It's so good. Honestly, it's very humbling to see everyone so interesting in learning more about AI agents, and it's just so cool. There's so much going on nowadays. I have some stuff that I want to share with you all that I'm just super excited about it, super excited. Let me make sure that I get everything open in here so that we can talk about a few practical use cases. That's the main thing today. I want to talk about how people are building and what people are building and what are the value that they are getting. Honestly, I think there's a lot going on, and we also have some news that I want to share with you all. Uh, you probably saw. I think you saw something online. I don't know if you did or not, but today we have been all over the media and social media talking about how we actually have secured some funding. So very excited about that. That means that now we can scale even faster, support even more use cases. There's so much more that we can do. So let me start by saying who is in here. I see Brazil. Yes, yesterday's session is going to be available in the channel. I know Tony is hearing us, so Tony, let's make sure that happens. All right, so I saw a video about Cerebras plus AI. Yes, we're very excited about this. So we're actually partnering with Cerebras as well, just basically supporting their models. So if there's anyone out there that want to run agents using Cerebras, they should be able to use it and should work like a charm. So very excited about that one. They're great. Honestly, I think all the providers are great because they all support models, and I love them all. I see Sandeco in there. Nice. Second day. Damn, so many people. Yes. So there was some news today that we secured funding. Yes, I've seen the comments. It feels good. All right. All right. Let's get things going. So I want to start by talking about some simple use cases. Yesterday, we talked about AI agents in general. So for the ones that were in here, you know about this. For the ones that were not, I'm going to catch you up in like 30 seconds. So yesterday we talked what are agents. The TLDR is agents are autonomous systems that leverage LLMs in order to take actions. So they use the LLMs to reason, to decide on how to tackle certain problems, and then they can take actions on those problems to make sure that they're getting used somewhere. And we're seeing this being especially used on companies. They're trying to automate complex processes. So it's all about like either repetitive processes or processes that take too long or processes that are just like a little bit too complex and they require a lot of like human hours that we're seeing now. These agents come along and kind of like take some of that load, enable people to focus on other things. So it's super helpful. We are also seeing more simple use cases where people are using to create content, people are using to helping with sales process or to marketing process, and that is pretty good. But I'm blown away about some of the more complex use cases that I'm seeing people kind of use. I see one question in here. Will you use, let me actually pop this up in here. So, will using the open source of CrewAI with the API endpoints and Rack for deploying the cloud work effectively? Or there are limitations required that require the enterprise version. So on the open source, what you can do is you can build these agents, right? And once that you build these agents, you basically have to figure out how you take them into a production environment. That's where enterprise can help you with. You can still use like and you can still try to figure out how I deploy this, how I get this running, and you can do all that. We find that there's a lot of work that goes into that. And enterprise not only help with that, but has a bunch of other features as well. I'm gonna show you a little more. Yesterday I showed a few things on the enterprise. I'm gonna show you a few other stuff today, and then tomorrow I want to use the platform with you all. So I want to make sure that we build our agents in there, we deploy them in there, we basically use them, we connect them, we integrate that with like a few different systems. Maybe we integrate with our CRM and we see how that works. There's a lot of different things, but I'm very excited about this. So we're talking about AI agents, what they do, their ability to basically take actions and use the reasoning that comes from LLMs to take decisions in the world and how they go about things, and how companies are using this to do automations. And that's the exciting part because automations is cross vertical, right? We're seeing use cases in like sales, marketing, coding, impressive education, impressive cases in coding. But I think more important than the individual cases is that we found a few patterns, and I want to talk about them real quick. So for that, let me share my screen. Uh, 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 and by the way, I'm going to be sharing a few things, and so bear with me. For the people that were around yesterday, you know how this goes. It's going to be exciting. So let me start by sharing here. Boom. All right. So I won't mention too much stuff, but I want to go over a few things because I think they can be very, very helpful. Let me make sure that I can fit this. There we go. All right. And by the way, this slide was made by a crew. So this is pretty fun. The way that we use the crew to analyze a bunch of data that we have from people that are using like agents. So we found out that around 42%, almost 43%, is around operations automations. And what I mean by operation automations is there's some sales in there as well, but a lot of it is kind of like internal processes automations. So we're seeing people build use cases here for internal processes around SKUs, managing databases, monitoring systems, monitoring factoring production. There is a huge use case around monitoring like factory equipments and basically making sure that everything is going fine. We can talk about that in a second. Then we have marketing, a lot of code development. I'm going to talk about that as well. Research, education, support. We're going to go over a few of those, but this is very interesting. But this is what I'm going to tell you. Despite of the vertical, right? Despite of what you're using your agents for, I think that it's more important to see the pattern that people are using. And the pattern here, the most common pattern, usually starts with this. It's a combination of these four things. Of course, I'm going to tell you about some edge cases and people that go way beyond these things, but this would be the most common pattern where people are going to have a research phase. So they want agents to do research. And researching here can be so many different things. Can be documents, can be the internet, can be a CRM. We have some financial companies that are actually connecting to existing embedding databases. So now the agents can actually do RAG, so they can extract information from these databases. A bunch of companies have been building kind of RAG databases throughout the last few months, and this kind of helps them with that. Then the other thing that they do is analysis. So that's the other thing. Usually, all right, now that I got this information, I want to compare it. I want to compare it with something else. I want to extract some information from something else. I want to infer a new information. And that's kind of like how things can go. And there's so many different analyses that you can do. You can also do some coding. So your agents can actually code. And we can talk about an example for that in a second. And then usually there's step for summarization. So now I have extracted these documents, I've done some analysis on it. I want to do a summarization of it, and then I want to do some reporting. And reporting in here can be a PDF, JSON, Markdown, depends on where it is, but it's something that allow us to push you to a different system, right? So you can push that into a separate system if you want to. And then you can see a bunch of cases that are kind of like mix and matching that. So, oh, extract some information. So this could be, for example, market research. It's a very common use case. We know a company that is actually selling marketing research for huge companies, right? I'm talking about like companies that are like immense, and what they do is they use Crew to actually do that research. So these agents they go online, and it is so cool because they don't only go and read content, right? They get images from it as well. So they see what are the stores, where the stores located from like the competitors, where are the main states. They use Google Maps information, they use Google Images information, they do actual search and reading, they look at 10Ks, at 10Qs. I'm gonna drown out how this works, but it's a very complex use case. Does all that research, gathers this data, it then extracts like learnings from everything and goes into a JSON object so they can push into a database. So very interesting use case, and this kind of like it like lays out that. Then other cases might be a little more simpler. Can be like, all right, let's load up the CRM data about a customer or something specifically. Let's get all this information, like what were the meetings, what are the transcript of those meetings, everything that we know about this content. Then let's infer some information that we don't have yet. So Is this person like, does this person like us? Do they use us? Like, you extract the information and then you go into an executive summary, because you need to report that somewhere. But this is very interesting. And for the people that were comparing about open source and enterprise, basically, I think Cray open source has done a great job at planning and building. And with enterprise, and we showed some of this yesterday, I'm going to show more today. We expand that heavily into deploying, monitoring, iterating, and even building becomes more complex and easier now with enterprise. And I'm going to show you some of that. That said, we're still going to be doing open source. Honestly, open source is near and dear to my heart. I love it, and I want to make sure that we keep doing it to support any use cases out there. Let me see if we have any questions in here. Are you considering? Oh, this is a good one. This is a hot one. Are you considering partnering with OpenAI to reduce API costs for CrewAI subscribers? So honestly, we're not in conversations with OpenAI. We have some relationship with the Jack Altman, since Altman's brother specifically, because they have what they call like there's a there's a family investment business, and that business is called Out Capital. So they invest like in startups and companies, and they did invest on us. So I got to spend some time with Sam. Actually, we went to OpenAI office, and it was maybe like 20 of us or something, and we spent like at least an hour talking about AI agents, the future. It was pretty intense. Um, all right. I'm sorry that you have to sleep, Ryan, but you catch the recording tomorrow. Why there is no support documentations of code interpreter tools on the CrewAI GitHub? I used to go. Yes, honestly, this is a good call out. The team's gonna work on that. We are actually putting together examples, and one of these examples are gonna go live tomorrow, and it has coding on it. So watch out for that. All right. So we're already talking about some of these questions. Let me see if there's anything in here that is worth digging into. There is a few things. Yeah. All right. All right. I think this is for this one is pretty good. I think we can now look at some actual use cases and kind of like draw it out. Oh, one thing, I don't know if you folks saw that, but now there's people hiring for CrewAI. I'm very excited about this. Amazon is actually hiring for CrewAI. There's an open position in there, and Cloudflare also has an open position on CrewAI. So there's like more and more, and also now there is HubSpot. HubSpot also hiring for CrewAI. So you can actually like find positions now that require you to kind of like know CrewAI, and that has been very interesting. I'm seeing some questions in here. This one we have been waiting for last. Yes, sorry about that. I know the waiting list has been a pain for me as well. Honestly, but we wanted to do something good and want to do it right, so I'm very excited. We are actually launching the platform this week, so I hope you all get to use it, and it's very likely that that's gonna maybe be tomorrow. So I don't want to like get in the way, but yeah, I think it's gonna be very exciting to get you all to see the platform and use it. We showed some of it yesterday. We're gonna show more of it today. All right, enough's enough. Let's talk about use cases and what some of the people are building there. I want to start describing some of the use cases, especially some of the more complex ones. All right. So let me tell you about some of the initial, the more simple, and then we get into more complex use cases. But there's people that are already using these things in production. So I don't know if you saw this, but I want to also promote a guy. So we're just launching the new product called Tierly.app. And I'm very excited about this because the app's actually using Crew AI behind the scenes. So basically, it's an app to help you figure out pricing for a product. So you can enter like your URL, and basically the product's gonna extract your product, understand your market, look at the competitors, compare your tiers against competitors, do an in-depth analysis, and even like create a reports for you. And that's very exciting. You can see the video in here. The video is great. It's very interesting to see what people are building with Crew, and this is one of the examples of people that are actually building in public and using Crew behind the scenes. So very excited about this one. Another use case that I want to show you is actually Javier here. Javier is actually he invested, and he's also part of a company that is doing like traveling and traveling plans, and it's a startup to help with like tourism in general, and it's called Waynabox, and they actually just shipped an entire new feature using Crew AI behind the scenes. Their use case around doing all the plannings for the traveling so that you can actually go out there, find the nicest hotels, the nicest airlines, figure out how to match everything, how to like basically get the best plan for you, for like your family and whoever you're traveling with. And it's so cool because the crew is actually doing all the planning behind the scenes. The crew is actually doing all this checking, and it has been great to work around that. And I want to show you this quick recording as well. I'm not going to show you everything, but there's one specific piece that I'm very excited about. Uh, Let me see if I can make sure that you can hear the sound of this as well. Uh, 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 Oh, I think I might not be able to share the sound. It's a shame, but yeah, this would be pretty good. Basically, they go over on how they are already using Crew and run basically 10,000 crews in production. This is more of a bigger company, but like super good to see they using this as well. All right, enough. Let's talk about some of the use cases and how people are actually using this. The main thing is how much this saves me or how much this generate of revenue, right? I think that's the main thing for companies. Like, all right, I need to know what is the ROI of running a crew. Like, what justifies me paying for this, or what justifies me actually trying to implement this. And the way that we have been calculating that for a lot of customers right now is how much time is spent now is spent on your use case. So let's say we have one example that I want to dive into real quick, and that was actually a monitoring for a factory plan. So they basically have a factory. It's a big pharmaceutical company, and they produce a lot of medicines, and they have all these machines. They're basically steering things and heating things and doing all that. And they want agents to monitor that. And when I asked them about it, I was like, "All right, what is the time that you spend doing this?" And I tried to be very conservative. They said to me it was hours. I was like, "Let's say that this is half an hour, right? So we're talking this is 30 minutes. So pretty simple use case." I was like, "All right, describe me your process. What exactly do you need these agents to do?" And they're like, "Well, there's a few things that I need them to do. I need them to monitor the data coming out from the machines. Then I need they to analyze that, analyze that, comparing with historical data. Then I want you to go and look that with compliance data and instructions. And then I want to do a preliminary. I'm going to do an analysis actually. Analysis. So that was their main use case. They're like, hey, I need your agents to do this. I need something that monitors the data that's coming in, analyze the data, compare with historical data, what were things that were like, what were other processes, other medicines that I have done. And I want to compile, I want to look at compliance data. So I want to make sure that I'm looking online, especially FDA. This was a very specific. So they want to like load specific data from FDA, see like what were the guidelines, are we following the guidelines, and then do analysis like is this batch good or is there a problem with that? And I was like, all right, this feels like an interesting use case. So let's say that you spend half an hour on this, but they actually spend way more than this. But I said like let's be conservative in here. So I built them 4 agents. So there was 4 agents that we built on their use case with them. And these 4 agents were basically an agent that was focused on monitoring. So this one would basically pull the data format that in a way that it was necessary for them to have on the final report so that they can inspect and verify the information. The other one would be an analyst, and this analyst would basically like compare this data with historical ones that they would have. And this analyst one, it would have some interesting tools. It would be able to read from a database. So read information from a database with the historic database with the history of the productions and other production batches that they had, and also had a preliminary list of compliance items. So if it finds something odd early on, it would already take care of that. The third agent was a very technical one, was specifically around GMP and SOP and FDA analysis. Was kind of like is exactly what they need to check if these things are right or not. And then the final one was basically the one that creates the report. So it was focused on generating the report. All right. So very straightforward use case. I mean, a little bit complex for you to actually build it, given like how this is like simple. It's simply kind of like a. It's complex because of the external data sources. It's complex because it's a very sensitive topic. It's complex because it's live data, and you want to make sure that people kind of like verify this. So this was a very interesting use case for them. So guess what? Guess what? Guess how long it took for these agents to run once that it was built. Any guesses? I'm looking at the chat, see if there's any guesses in there. How long did these agents took to run? And while guesses come in, I'm gonna make sure that we drown the results in here so I can show you because I was very impressed with this use case. All right, I'm gonna say time to run and I'm gonna say how many times they would run per month. So per month, and then we can say time saved per month, and then we can say costs. All right. So I see 1 minute, 10 minutes, 5 minutes, 7 minutes, seconds, 30 seconds, 3 minutes. All right. Some people got pretty close. It was actually 2 minutes and 56 seconds. That's how long this took to run. Per month, though, they were considered running this 5,000 times. 5,000 times. That means that they're saving every month that they run this, they were saving 2,500 hours. Because if every time saves like half an hour, they're saving 2,500 hours when doing this. This crew, and this was like a little like a while ago. GPT-4o was not around. People were still using GPT-4 Turbo back then, and this was basically costing them for running 5,000 times 2,553 and 15 cents. That's how many dollars they were paying to OpenAI. Using, and again, this was using GPT-4 Turbo. What is a very expensive model, by the way? GPT-4o, way cheaper nowadays. 4o mini then, don't even get me started on that. So there you go. Here you can see how much they're paying for this. And you might find this expensive. The one thing that I gotta tell you though is how much it cost for them before, because they would basically have someone spend hours on this, doing this thing, and kind of like trying to like analyze this data live, and that assuming that it take 30 minutes, that was costing them over $60,000 per month. So they literally, from this, they were actually saving every month with just this use case. What is it? Not a very like complex, crazy use case. They were saving what, around $57,000 per month. This is insane, insane. And honestly, this is like one use case. Like if you start to actually use this and deploying this, there's so much more that you can do, and more than savings, there's also opportunities that is generating revenue. And generating revenue here is interesting because we have a use case that I want to tell you about, and that's a legal use case. Very interesting. So let's talk about Lego use case. And I can't tell you much about the company because it's behind an NDA, and that happens a lot when you're building with enterprises. But they are okay with me sharing some of this. So the way that they're doing this legal use case is, and by the way, I'm seeing that the transmission takes a while to get to you, so I see there's like some questions coming. I'm gonna get back to that in a second. So if it takes me a while to answer your questions, it's just because it takes a while for them to pop up here in the chat. But the legal use case was very good. So yes, we evaluated accuracy. Let me show that. We evaluated accuracy. Accuracy was actually pretty high because in the end, they didn't want the thing to like just wrap it up and like send it and it's good to go. They, if it got flagged as it needs someone to check this is not fine. Like you didn't follow the compliance, there was something wrong with the FDA. Like then what happens is it gets flagged to a human, and then the human only focus on those. So because we side on this, we side with like kind of like a safety on that one. That was actually kind of like where they're going with it, having human in the middle for the ones that were flagged as kind of like problematic. So there's a lot going on in there, and there's a lot of people doing human in the loop, especially on the use cases that require kind of like a very high accuracy. So what we're telling people, and I'm gonna derail things real quick, is like if your use case require 100% accuracy, right? And in here, it would be something like accounting, for example. Like you don't want to mess out with that. I would say this not good for agents yet. Too soon. I think we're gonna get there, and we're gonna get there pretty soon. But 100% accuracy, things like accounting, I wouldn't do it, and I don't recommend it. We have customers that are doing it, especially people that are working like on financial use cases. We have some people that are actually doing that. Then the other thing is if you have things that are kind of like 95% accuracy, maybe 97 depending on your use case, then that's great. And that can be, and the reason why that's okay is because you can do a lot of human in the loop if you really want to get it to 100. So that also works. And I can actually show you this in a second on how that works. So there's a few different things that you can do. And this, I would say, this is good for agents. You're good to go. So let me tell you about this legal use case real quick because the reason why I like to talk use cases is because it gives you ideas, right? So if it give you ideas around like, all right, this makes sense now, and how I can also apply something similar into my company or my job. I see another question in here real quick that I want to answer, and that is how did it save 60K if it only saves 30 minutes a day? So in the end of the day, the math that went behind it was how much they're paying an hour for that person or for that group of people to actually verify this, and then you multiply that by 2500 because that's how many hours that team was spending on doing things like this. So it's a little intense. uh all right. You're gonna get sued. I hope I don't. So let me talk a little bit about a legal use case in here. So this is for a telecom company, right? And they basically have a process where they need their legal team to review every contract like I can tell you much about why they need to review it, but they need to review every contract that falls under a certain category for individual customers. So individual customers, and you can think this is not a small telecom. This is a big one. So what that means is a lot of money being spent and a lot of time being spent by the legal team reviewing these contracts, basically going over it over and over again. And honestly, that just doesn't work. And it's not only the money and the time, but they're also getting a few things wrong. And that happens because it's a lot of repetitive work. And because it's a lot of repetitive work, sometimes people are gonna probably skip a few things, skip one thing here, skip one thing there. And when they do that, that kind of like that blows things up, right? So what they are considering with Crew is, and let me tell you about this, is pretty good, agents to do it. So the agents will actually do a series of steps where they will pull the contract information Then they're going to review that. They're going to analyze it, make sure that it follows a few rules. So there's a very specific rule system that it needs to follow. Then it's going to create a CSV with the data. So all the math, everything, all the details in there. And then it's going to push that with a recommendation for the legal team. So you can see how the legal team is still in the middle there, but now it's towards the end. And it doesn't need to worry about, oh, I feel the information wrong or I missed something. And because of that, now we're in trouble. We approved something that we're not supposed to or whatever it might be. So this makes things way faster. And then the ones that they want to focus the most amount of time are the ones that are not being approved, right? The ones that are saying like, oh, this is no bueno, this is no good. There's something wrong with this contract. It's not following the specified rules. And there's even some conversations to actually get some of these rules from live data. So actually get this from live data, especially on government websites where they need to get some of those rules from there. So very interesting use case. And what I like about this one is not about savings alone. It's about actually optimizing, because the problem is whenever this CSV data is wrong and these roles are not being applied correctly, they're leaving money at the table. So they could have a better contract. They could like get more money out of those things. So they could actually do it and they're not. So that sucks. So I think this is a very good use case, very interesting use case. So, all right, we're talking about these use cases. They are, I would say they're not simple, but they're also not like super heavy and complex. But I want to talk about a complex use case. I want to show one thing in the platform that I used this last few days. So I don't know if you folks saw this, but today, as I mentioned, there was a lot of news about Cray, right? So TechCrunch Cray uses third-party models to automate business tasks. Very interesting blog post. If you folks want to read it, it tells a little bit about what we're doing and how we're doing it. It has some photos of the platform as well. Very interesting. Then there was also more. There was actually a bunch of them. If you look, Venture B, we also had a blog post about it, showing how Cray now lets you build a fleet of enterprise AI agents. So, in order for us to get this out there, I had to do interviews. And in the process of doing interviews, you meet with a reporter that will have all these questions, and you have to do some prep. And I have been very busy, so I didn't have much time to prep. So I actually decided to use a crew for that, and I was able to do the whole thing super fast. So let me show you this. This is the platform, by the way, for the people that didn't see it yesterday. I'm going to show you a few features now that I didn't show yesterday. So I was like, I need to be able. Oh, audio is not great. Let me do this. It's going to work better. There we go. I said, all right, I need to be able to create a crew that can analyze these reporters for me. So I went into Crew Studio and I chatted my way into an automation. I was like, all right, help me a crew that, given a reporter's name, it researches the web for all their latest posts and content and do a full analysis on them. I need to understand their perspective on tech, on AI agents, and anything else that might be relevant for the interview they're going to do with me. The interview is going to be about Cray. I'm the founder. All right. So I basically told this. Then the Crew Assistant kind of like takes on, it suggests me a few things. I ask to change a few others, and it gives me a plan. It's like, all right, this is your plan. You're going to have an output that is a comprehensive analysis on the report recent posts with the focus on their views on technology and AI. And you're gonna have one input, and that input will be the reporter's name. And you have three agents: a research and analysis agent, a summary agent. Here is like the tasks. So it's gonna use the separate dev tool, so it already knows the tools that it has available, and you can like add custom ones to it as well. So it knows that already has that. Extract the teams and the perspectives and compile them into analysis. Then I clicked on generate a crew plan, and it gave me this plan. Basically, my agents, my tasks, everything is in here. I can keep changing. I can say, oh, this is going to be a senior summary composer, and that gets reflected. And then I was like, all right, this took me like 2 minutes. And I click on create crew. Then after that, it takes me to this UI right here where I was able to change a few things. Basically, you get to select the tools, make sure that everything is all right. You can change a few things on the agents. You can select what model you will be using. In this account, I only have OpenAI models. So I say, all right, I want to use GPT-4o mini. And then I basically went ahead and click on deploy. And when I click on deploy, it created the crew for me and put it online right away. And this is the crew: Reporter Insights crew creation. So in here, I have been searching for these reporters as I talk with them. You can see this was the last one that I chatted with, and I basically got to see during the. I'm going to show you a few different things. So bear with me. I was able to basically come in here and see, like, all right, what is this reporter like vibe? What is their, like, her takes on things? And I can see it provides a comprehensive and nuanced perspective on integration of technology, particularly AI education, media narratives and AI and human creativity, business application of AI, ethics expectations. In summary, yes, it seems to recognize UI as a dual-edged sword, offering significant opportunities and advancements while necessitating a critical examination of its social impact. So that's great. This gives me all the information that I need to jump into that. And they're like, wow, maybe I should talk about the ethics behind it. Maybe I should talk about what are the legal, like, needs behind AI agents and what that means. So very interesting. And in here you can get some information. So tokens, the prompt tokens, the completion tokens, the number of requests, the execution time. You can expand into each specific task and you can see, like, all right, what does this agent do exactly? You can also go through the agents. You can see what models each agent did. So very interesting use case. And the way that I run this now is, again, because this is live now in Crew, you can actually deploy it. So you can actually integrate with the API. So there's an endpoint now, and you can actually even call it from here. You can see what are the inputs that my agents need. It just needs the reporter name, and I can actually call the reporter name in here. And I can even set what are the webhooks in case I want to integrate that with something else. But I want to show you a new thing. I want to show you how I can actually run this. We have this management UI, and this is so cool. This looks like a Trello board, right? And this is how you can interact with your agents. So let me copy Patricia names in here as well, and let me say, hey, I want to kick off this crew. This is the name of the reporter, and create the crew for me. And you can see that my agents are basically going to pick up this card. So this card is now something that my agents are looking for. You can see that they start working on it. You can expand into the tasks, and you can see how as they execute it through it. So this is pretty good because you can now even you can. I think what clicked it for me is I build my crew, I deploy my crew, and I execute my crew, and I can actually explore the results of it without doing any coding. Like all this was like completely no code from building to deploying to executing to now actually getting the results. And you can see the results are very similar. Still talking about ethical considerations. So feels very, very cool. And then there's even more that I haven't showed you yet. I really want to dive into that with you tomorrow, but I'm gonna give you a sneak peek. So check this out. There is the training feature. So I train my agents a little bit. There's executions that I showed you right now. And then there's testing. You can actually run testing, and you can see how I did testing with GPT-4o mini. So you can get the quality of your tasks and see how that is going. You can run more testing, and you can compare different models. And the metrics, I really like the metrics. So the metrics are good because they show the average execution time, they show the average prompt tokens, they show whenever you deployed your crew, so you can see how your deployment kind of like affected that. And then they also show quality. Let me zoom into that. So there you go. You have quality over time. So you can see as you run these agents, how kind of like how good and how, or like what is the quality that you're getting from them. So it's pretty good. So Javier here had a good question. How do you manage false positives and doing research? That's great. So in general, not on this use case, but in general, the way that I tell people to actually use to actually do kind of like a fact checking is usually I have an extra agent for QA. And I also, when I train my agents, I tell them to specifically refer to the sources where they're getting the materials from. So in that way, I can always fact check the sources and make sure that the material, like the data that they're working off, is actually valid. So that would be a few ways. Um, the another question here is from Sandeco. It's true that GPT-4 Mini has been performing interestingly. Yes, has been amazing. Honestly, GPT-4o is insane for me nowadays. It works very well. Then Luke asks, how do you compute the score? Luke, I'm so great that you asked this. This is such a good thing. So we build Crew AI from the ground up, thinking about things like this. And I still remember when back when we started building Crew AI, there's a few people would basically me ask questions while I was doing things in a certain way. So if you look at Crew AI in the open source, you see that there are tasks. They not only have a description, but they also have an expected output, right? And the reason why you have a description and an expected output, because a lot of people ask me about this. They're like, "Oh, why are you asking about an expected output if I'm already giving you a description of what I want?" Those overlap. And the reason why is because now we know what you expect to get from it. So we can always get the actual result and compare that with what you expected to get. And depending on how close those two are, we can say how good this crew is. So basically, the quality here is a comparison between it's using LLM as a judge and comparing like what was the output that your agents gave and how that measure against the actual the output that you expected. So very interesting use case. I see there's more question coming, but I'm gonna keep going. And honestly, there's a few metrics that I can show you like tomorrow as well. As you can see, the tools. What are the tools that are being used? How many of them are being used? The tool execution time, so you can see if an integration starts to fail. You can get the most common errors. You can see delegations if they're happening. There's a lot in here. And then the quality, the tasks as well. You can see the amount of time that is being spent per quest, and then you can dive into the quality a little more if you want to. So again, I just wanted to show you this because this was such an interesting use case. It's not a very complex, it's actually a very simple one, but I was able to build this in like 1 second just to get things going, and that was very exciting for me. uh all right, so I want to talk about one use case real quick. Is that is it's so complex, and again, this is I can't tell you much about the companies behind this, but this is live editing feed. This is insane. I'm gonna tell you about the use case, and when I heard about it from the customer the first time, I didn't believe on this. This is kind of thing that I wouldn't recommend, but it's working. So let me actually show you this. So this is what happens. This is a media company, and this media company basically has live feeds from games, right? So you can think, for example, soccer, football, whatever it might be, basketball. They have a lot, and they actually fine tune a model, a vision model. So they have a vision model that, and actually, I'm gonna make this a box. So they have a vision model that they fine tune into tracking the ball. So as they are doing live feeds, as they're showing a game, they have a model that can now automatically know at any point in time where the ball is and can track that. So what they are doing is they build a crew. I don't believe this. It's insane. They build a crew, and this crew has a few agents, a video producer. They also have an audio producer. They also have a director, and a few others. But they basically have a series of video and editing related agents in that crew. And what these agents will do is they will use these models, and they're using this model as a tool. So basically, they are using like the model as a tool. And what they do, and this is the insane part, they get live feeds, right? So the game going live, and they pass to these agents. This crew automatically cut the video, track the ball, do the editing, add captions, add sound, and push it to social networks. So on the other side, just send it to social. Way more complex use case. It involves a lot of like video editing. They have a custom fine-tuned model in there. There's a lot going on, but they're talking about running this and pushing this to millions of people, and it's insane. Kind of like an amazing use case. I'm very excited about use cases like this that are kind of like pushing to the cutting edge of what is possible. And we're seeing this for video, and we're also seeing this for finance. So finance is the other thing that I'm a little bit impressed. So finance, with finance, what we're seeing are people doing, not people, but companies that run huge funds. Yes, it's real time. I'm seeing the questions coming in. It's real time. They're doing that while the game's live. It's insane. So finance is an interesting use case. The way that it's happening on finance is they basically have these big funds, right? And funds here are a collection of companies that people can invest on. So you can say, oh, this is a good fund. I'm going to invest on it, right? And what they used to do is they had this financial analysts that they're financial analysts that are basically monitoring and research all these companies, right? So they got to research all the companies, and they got to do it pretty deeply. So it's like external data where they basically like get data from 10Ks, 10Qs, 8Ks, like everything that is in there. And then they also get internal data. So they have external data, and in here it's kind of like the classical like SEC related data, right? 10Ks, 8Ks, 10Qs, and all that. And then they also have, as I mentioned, internal data. And internal data here are a few things like an existing RAG or embeddings database and an entire RAG system that they have, because they have been doing like analysis for like so long, right? So they have a lot of data on these companies that is basically proprietary for them. They don't share this with anyone because they use it internally. So what they're doing is actually allowing analysts to use agents. So the financial analysts now can now use agents. They're basically manager of these agents, and the agents do all the research. They look at the external data, they look at the internal database. If they find, like, for example, this is very interesting, and once that was running, and like we saw that, we got blown away. And that is, they're like extracting out this data from these companies, right? So trying to understand how big the company is. They're trying to understand how much revenue, and if there's like a data point that is kind of like missing, right? So let's say that they're not being able to find the revenue. The agents were smart enough to basically like try the embeddings database and try to do RAG over that. And they would try different ways. They would try one thing. If that doesn't work, they would try another search, up to the point that they get this information no matter what. And this was insane. And now what the financial analyst does is it reviews. So it reviews the research instead of like doing all the busy work of gathering the documents, of finding the correlations, and potentially missing things. So again, it's not only about time saving, it's about like making sure that you're doing things that are not missing it out. So they review now, and they're still responsible for a few things. They're still responsible for managing the agents. They're still responsible for delivering the result. They're still responsible for putting a nice bow on it to verify all the information, to fact check everything. But they're doing like 15, 20 times more than what they used to do before. And this is a very interesting and complex use case, giving like a lot of what is going in there. So you're literally enabling these companies to move so much faster. And I'm a little bit blown away by that. So, all right. I have one final thing that I want to talk about before we wrap things up. I know that we're closing in. We're doing this for almost an hour by now. You probably saw this, but if you didn't, I wanna show you. Let me see. It's probably here. Uh, damn. So many. Where is here? This one now. Yeah, this one. Great. So I don't know if you saw this, but I want to be very clear about this. First thing is, we announced that we have raised $18 million, and we have been working with some amazing investors, and not only institutional investors, but Andrew NG, the founder of Coursera, actually is an investor on us. So I'm very excited to have Andrew as part of this. He's such a nice person. He's so good. And Darmash, the CTO of HubSpot, also one of our investors. That has been great to work with them as well. And what I mean by that is there's a lot that we are cooking. There's a lot that's gonna come, and a lot that we're gonna be working on. And the first step is releasing this platform for you all and for other people to use. We have a few hundred people that are now actually using this platform, and companies that are using this, but I want to make available for everyone. So my plan, or plan, is to actually make it available for you tomorrow. But there's more things for us to announce tomorrow. So let me actually do this one thing. Let me start sharing real quick. And I want to tell you a little bit about the plans for tomorrow, because I'm very excited about that. All right, there you go. All right, so plans for tomorrow. Tomorrow, we're going to announce a new partnership. If you remember, yesterday we announced IBM. I'm very excited to be working with the IBM. IBM is kind of like OG with the Watson, like that thing like has been around for a while, and it's so good to see IBM stepping up and partnering with companies like ourselves and innovating. So we're very excited about that. But we're going to be working with a few other companies as well. And tomorrow we're going to announce another partner that we're very excited about. The other thing that I want to tell you about tomorrow is that tomorrow we're going to be launching something new. That is not the platform, it's something new. I can't tell you. I wish I could, but they don't let me tell you. But we're going to be announcing something early in the morning Pacific time. That's going to be 8:30 Pacific time. We're going to be doing an announcement that we're very excited about. So stay tuned for that. That's going to be good. I know a lot of you have been asking me about it. So it's good to deliver on that. Believe me when I say. Then the other thing that we're also gonna do tomorrow is I want to build with you. All right. So we yesterday we talked about what are AI agents and how they work. I briefly showed a few things on the platform. Today we're talking about use cases. We're talking about simple ones. I showed you three companies that are already using these things in production and how they're deploying these features. And I talked about a few use cases that are a little more complex than like the traditional ones, in a few of more the common use cases. And tomorrow I want to actually build with you. So if you accept my invite to build with me, would love to get you access the platform tomorrow so that we can build something together. And I want to see how that goes. I want to see what you folks come up with, and I want to see how good it gets. It's gonna be a stressful day tomorrow. Bear with me. I have been working very long hours. The team has been working very long hours. This is gonna be the first time that we're putting a lot of stress into this platform, and for all the builders, engineers, product people, and executives out there, hear me out. Launches can be stressful. So bear with me, but I think this is gonna be very good. And I think we're gonna have a lot of fun together. So let's go into tomorrow. Tomorrow is gonna be very exciting. I promise you, we won't regret it. It's gonna be pretty good. All right, why don't we wrap up by now? I'm seeing a few questions in here. Let me see if I answer them real quick. What about today's big announcement? Well, today's big announcement is that we raised a lot of money. We raised $18 million with a few different investors, including Andrew and Darmash. and they have been crazy to work with. And you know what? There's one thing that I want to tell you, like why it's so humbling to have someone like Andrew partner with you and our mesh as well. Is like for someone like Andrew, right? That everyone here knows because everyone kind of like knows Andrew. Right? The guy is so popular and so important for like AI in general. Just to give you an example, I think I tried to connect with him at some point and he couldn't because he was in the White House. he was he was like helping people figuring out like how to do like how to legislate around their AI. So he is amazing. So the thing that is very humbling of partnering someone with him is he gets to see everything that is out there, right? He gets to see all the products. He gets to see all the open source projects. So he's seeing what everyone's doing. And for us to come to me and say, like, hey, I love what you're doing. I actually am using it. I got my team to use it. I want to be part of that. That is like honestly, that is pretty intense. I'm very humbled by that and very proud as well from not only the work that I'm doing, but the work that the whole team is doing. I think that is very exciting. So this is very good. So these are basically the today news. Like there was the partnership yesterday. Today there was this announcement. I'm very excited about this. And again, tomorrow 8:30 Pacific, we're gonna do an announcement. Pretty good. Launch something new that we didn't have before. I think y'all will like it. And then at night, we're gonna build a crew together. You and I have an appointment here at the same moment, same time, where we're gonna actually build a crew together. I'm gonna give you all access to the platform, and we can play with that. Thank you so much for showing up. I really appreciate you all. Honestly, my life's a little insane now, but I really appreciate you all and the fact that you're using Korea. And we're going to talk more about the platform tomorrow. Tomorrow's going to be more of a deep dive on it. We're really going to focus on that. So have a good one, and I catch you later.